what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Season 7 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today, I'm going to be covering support Brand, the Burning Vengeance.
Ready to set the world on fire.
So why exactly would you want to play support Brand? Well, he's got really solid AoE damage and also a form of crowd control. He's got very good lane presence and he can even carry team fights. He's one of those few support champions out there that can actually carry a game. He's also, of course, a champion that can snowball, and if he does get a really solid amount of items, his ultimate is going to be very devastating. Finally, Brand is a champion with a lot of poke. All of his abilities, including his auto attacks, are ranged, and they can be very annoying to deal with for the enemy champions. Brand, however, is a champion that really lacks mobility. You're going to need to position yourself properly in teamfights and in the lane phase, because if you do get caught out, you're going to die incredibly fast. Your ultimate is then pretty situational. You do require targets to be near each other. If they are far apart, your ultimate isn't going to do very much. If, however, you can get into a clump team, it's going to be devastating. Brand is also a very skill shot reliant champion. You must be landing a couple skill shots in succession in order to stun people, and if you're not, well, you're not going to be that strong of a champion. Then finally, of course, since you are a high damage champion, you're also very squishy. Yet again, this is why positioning is so important on Brand, because not only do you lack mobility, you'll also die really quickly. For your Masteries, you'll want to go 18 Ferocity and 12 Cunning, grabbing Deathfire Touch as your Keystone Mastery. Your poke damage is already really hard to deal with as Brand, and when you add Deathfire Touch on top of it with your passive burn, it's going to do a lot of damage. For the rest of your Masteries, you pretty much just want to focus on increasing your damage as much as possible, while also getting some mana regeneration, and of course Bandit, which works great on Brand. For your runes, you want to go for Magic Penetration Reds, Armor Yellows, Magic Resist Blues, and Ability Power Quints. The Magic Penetration and Ability Power are really nice on Brand because your spells are going to be hitting even harder. You'll still usually want to make sure you pick up that Armor and the Magic Resist just so you're a little bit more durable than normal. If you are, however, against a really easy lane matchup, then you may want to go for Glyphs of Magic Penetration instead and increase your damage even more. It's a very viable option, but if you are doing so, I would consider having this rune page as well in case you do run into something like a Zyra. For your first Summoner spell, you'll want to pick up Flash. You're a very immobile and squishy champion, and Flash can save you multiple times throughout a game. You can also use it offensively to flash forward and finish off an enemy trying to escape. For my next Summoner spell, I'll usually pick up Ignite. Brand is a champion who's looking to get the lane snowballing with his high kill potential, and this Summoner will add even more. His passive burns combined with an Ignite can finish off enemies throughout the game, and they can be running away with pretty high health and still end up dying. Exhaust, however, is a really solid option as well if you're against some really high damage champions like Yasuo, Zed, or Lucian in order to shut down their very high burst damage. Your passive ability is Blaze, and this does some really nice max health damage. Brand's ability set his targets ablaze upon damaging them, dealing 2% of their maximum health as magic damage over 4 seconds, stacking up to 3 times, and empowering his abilities against them. The damage against monsters is capped at 320. At 3 stacks, an area around the target is marked, which explodes after 2 seconds. All enemies struck are dealt 12 to 16% based on level percentage plus 1.5% per 100 AP of their max health as magic damage. The explosion will still trigger if the target dies. So this passive here is really damn strong. When you combine this burn with your Deathfire Touch, just landing one ability can do a pretty significant amount of damage. In teamfights, if you can get multiple people at 3 stacks, this can be completely devastating. 12 to 16% max health damage is pretty damn massive. This gives Brand, although you will be a support champion, even the ability to take down tanky targets. Your Q ability is Seer, and this does some pretty decent damage and also has the ability to stun your enemy. When activated, Brand launches a fireball in the target direction that deals magic damage to the first enemy it hits. If the enemy has your passive Blaze on them already, the target is also stunned for 1.5 seconds. So this is a pretty good ability because it does have a decent AP ratio, but the better part is in the stun. To use this ability, usually you're going to want to follow it up after a WE or even ultimate to make sure that this ability stuns. Since this is your ability with the second highest AP ratio, you will want to max it second. For the cons, I also did say that Brand is a very skill shot reliant champion, and this ability is mostly why. Most of your damage does come from your W, but if you do miss that, it's not the end of the world. If, however, somebody jumps on you and you do miss your Q ability, you're probably going to die. Your W is Pillar of Flame, and this is your main source of damage, besides your ultimate of course. When activated, after a 0.625 second delay, Brand makes the target area erupt in flames, dealing magic damage to enemies within. If the target has Blaze on them, Pillar of Flame deals 25% additional damage. So this is a really strong ability, and it is our main source of damage in the lane phase, so we do want to max this one first. Its AP ratio is just a little bit higher than our Q ability, however, it's also AoE. This ability is the one you'll want to be spamming in lane to try to take control of the lane. When the enemy AD carry is coming in to last hit a minion, this ability is going to be really easy to land because you can drop it right underneath where they're going to be, and it will of course hit them. As long as you can do this over and over throughout the lane phase, you should win it pretty easily. If the enemy is hiding in brush as well, you will be able to spam this inside and hopefully hit them, making them move out of the bush. Your E is Conflagration, and this does just okay damage, but it does spread. When activated, Brand sets the target enemy aflame, dealing magic damage. If the enemy does have Blaze on them, Conflagration also spreads to enemies around the target. So this is an okay ability, but it does only have a 35% AP ratio, which is a lot less than either our Q or our W, so we want to save it for last. If you want to help your AD carry quickly push a minion wave though, it is pretty good because it does spread to enemies around the target. In a team fight, this can also be pretty decent because the enemies are somewhat clumped together. This will spread and of course put your passive on them as well, which will do a nice burn. It is also a point and click ability, so if you do miss your W on the enemy and you still want to stun them, you can quickly hit them with an E and then use your Q. Last is your ultimate Pyroclasm, which is really solid because it jumps around the fight and can do some devastating damage. When activated, Brand launches a fireball at the target enemy that bounces between nearby enemies up to 4 times, dealing magic damage each time. If its initial target becomes invalid and there are no other valid targets, Pyroclasm refunds its cost and resets its cooldown. If the target is already set ablaze, Pyroclasm briefly slows enemies' hit. So this ability here is really why Brand is such an amazing team fighter. In the right situation where an enemy team is clumped, this will bounce around and do a lot of damage. It does only have a 25% AP ratio, but that's for each bounce and it will hit 5 times in total. To use this ability, it is pretty simple. You just have to make sure there's at least 2 people near each other, toss this out, and watch it bounce back and forth and do a ton of damage. For your skill order, you first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then for its great damage in lane and teamfights, you want to max your W ability, Pillar of Flame, first. We'll then want to move on to our Q ability, Seer, second. This skill does a lot of damage as well, and the cooldown goes down every time we put a point in it, which means we can stun more often. We'll then want to save our E ability, Conflagration, for last. We will want to get 1 point in it at level 3 so we can actually get our passive to proc and do that nice chunk of extra damage. For your combos, you have 2 main ones that don't include your ultimate. The first is opening up with your W ability and then hitting with your Q ability to stun the target. At this point, quickly hit them with your E ability to proc your passive and make them blow up. The second combo here will do a little bit more damage. Open up with your E ability and then stun the target with your Q. At this point, while the target is still stunned, hit them with your W ability. This combo will deal a little bit extra damage because your W ability does 25% extra damage while the target is ablaze. Now let's look at a couple AD carry synergies, and first up is Kog'Maw. With a Kog'Maw, he can either drop his ooze before you try to combo to slow the target, or drop it afterwards and keep the target slowed after they do get out of your stun. He'll then be able to activate his W ability and probably kill the enemy in that duration. He is a champion that does require peeling, however, so hopefully you can land your stun combo. Next here is Lucian, and with his really high early game damage, you guys are probably going to be able to snowball that lane. As long as you can land your stun combo on the enemy, he can use his E ability to get towards the target and burst them with his passive and his Q ability. That's basically all you have to say about this combo. As long as you can land your stun combo, you and him are going to be able to add a ton of damage and insta-gib targets. Last here we have Varus, and you guys together form a pretty damn strong poke lane. As long as you can consistently land your W and he can consistently land his Q ability, the enemy team is going to be pretty damn salty. It's a ton of damage and there's not many champions that can deal with it. Then in teamfights, his ultimate can root multiple targets and that will allow your ultimate to bounce through them and do a ton of damage. It's pretty disgusting. In the lane phase, you'll want to try to poke the enemy bot lane as much as you can with your Pillar of Flame. As long as you land one spell, your passive burn will proc all of your Spell Thief stacks, which can generate you a ton of gold. Your goal in the bot lane is to take control of the lane so your AD carry can safely farm. Be careful not to get too out of position though, because you are a very squishy and immobile champion. Look to land either your Conflagration and Seer combo or your Pillar of Flame and Seer combo on the enemy to quickly stun them. If this combo lands, make sure you add your third spell so Blaze will go on the enemy and blow them up for even more damage. In teamfights, your main goal is to look for a really strong Pyroclasm on the enemy team. Wait until multiple targets are grouped up so you know that it will bounce a bunch of times and wreak havoc on the enemy team. If there are assassins on the enemy team, then you may want to hold on to your stun combo if you feel like they're going to jump on you or one of your carries. A well-placed stun combo can save your teammate and get the enemy killed at the same time. Keep in mind that you're still a very squishy champion and you do lack mobility, so you'll have to position properly, otherwise if you do get out of position, you're probably going to die instantly. Now let's look at a couple hard matchups, and first up is Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank is a very winnable matchup, but if he is able to constantly grab you or your teammate, you're going to lose the lane so incredibly hard. Positioning properly behind minions is insanely important, and if he does try to come in for a grab, you must land your combo. As long as you can pull off these two things, the lane phase should be pretty easy for you, and he instead is going to have a miserable time. Next here we have Nautilus, and if he does max his W ability first, he'll be able to soak your damage over and over again and take no damage to his actual health pool. As long as he lands his anchor, he then has an absolute ton of kill pressure on you. So, just like Blitzcrank, make sure you're hiding behind minions, and at all costs, do not get hit by that anchor. If he does, he'll be able to root you, and if his AD carry follows up, you're pretty much screwed. Last here we have Zillion, and he's able to provide mobility for him and his AD carry, which is going to make landing your W extremely hard in lane. As soon as you land a combo and you're about to kill somebody, he can simply press R. Then if all that wasn't already enough, he has a ton of kill pressure on you. His stun combo shouldn't be incredibly hard to land because you are very immobile, and if it does land, his AD carry will follow up and burst you down. Try your best to land your combos and avoid his at all costs. Now let's look at your item build, which starts with a Spell Thief's Edge, health potions, and a warding totem. For your core build, you want to get Eye of the Watchers, Leandries, and a Rylai's Crystal Scepter. The Eye of the Watchers is great because you will be able to ward, and of course get a nice chunk of ability power. Leandries is fantastic on Brand because you do already have a burn from your passive, and you do have Deathfire Touch, and this adds even more burn. Landing just one spell is going to do a ridiculous amount of damage. We'll then want to get the Rylai's Crystal Scepter. This will provide a slow which works great with all of your AoE damage and give you a really nice health pool at the same time. Instead of Eye of the Watchers, you could go for Frost Queen's Claim and a Ruby Sightstone. This is a pretty decent alternative, but I don't like to take it too much on Brand because I like to get as much ability power as possible, and I don't like to waste a spot for that Ruby Sightstone. For your boot options, you first have Sorc Shoes for its nice penetration, Ionian Boots for 10% CDR, and Boots and mobility if you are looking to roam a lot during the game. As for the item pool, we first have the Void Staff. Since you are a champion that's looking to do as much damage as you can, Void Staff is a great way to get through any magic resist the enemies will have. Then, if you're looking to maximize your damage, you could get a Rabadon's Death Cap. If you're looking to carry the game as much as you can, then you're probably going to need one. Then, you do always have the option of getting a Rod of Ages early on. I don't like to do it too much myself because I like the early Leandries and Rylai's Crystal Scepter, but it is a viable option. Then, if you do need a really good defensive, you could get the Zhonya's. This will still give you a nice chunk of ability power and 10% CDR, yet a really solid activation that can save your life. If you're instead looking for a bunch of CDR, you could get the Morellonomicon. If you're against some champions that do abuse healing, then you're probably going to want to pick this item up. Finally, you still have the option of going for a Redemption. Personally, when I'm playing Brand, it's all about getting as much damage as possible and carrying, but the Redemption's heal can still be a very solid item on Brand. For my example full build though, I go for that core build, get the Sorc Shoes for its penetration, and then the Void Staff for more penetration, and Rabadon's Death Cap to maximize my damage potential. You're not really going to solve your issue of being very immobile and squishy, but you will have an absolute ton of damage, so if you do position properly, you're going to be a very potent champion. But that, ladies and gentlemen, covers everything I've got for Support Brand in Season 7. Don't forget to check out the video description below for a link to all my social medias. I stream every night but Tuesday at 7 PM Eastern now, and of course that link is down there. As is my Discord server and my second YouTube channel. Also, if you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure you like and subscribe, but other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy, have a good day, and peace.
Going